Pregnancy is often seen as a time of joy, anticipation, and new beginnings. But for me, it became a battleground. My wife, Vanessa, had been unfaithful for months, and when she found out she was pregnant, she seemed to believe it gave her an upper hand, a way to manipulate, control, and silence me. Her newfound power was evident in every interaction. The tone in her voice, the way she dismissed my concerns, and the smug confidence in her eyes whenever she reminded me of the life growing inside her. First, I admit I felt helpless. The betrayal, combined with the implications of her pregnancy, created a whirlwind of anger, frustration, and fear. Could I confront her? Should I fight back? Or would any action I took be misinterpreted as weakness, feeding into the sense of control she had assumed? But over the first few weeks, I realized that yielding to fear or emotion would only give her the upper hand she so desperately sought. I needed strategy, patience, and composure, tools I had learned over years of navigating life's most challenging situations. I began documenting everything: late nights, secretive calls, evasive behavior, and subtle manipulations. Not for revenge, but to understand her pattern, to anticipate her moves, and to reclaim control over my own life. Vanessa seemed to believe that her pregnancy made me powerless, that I would tolerate lies, disrespect, and manipulation simply because of the baby. But I had learned the hard way that strength is not measured by silence or compliance. It's measured by the ability to act decisively, calmly, and with foresight. One evening I confronted her, not with anger or threats, but with calculated clarity. "Vanessa," I said, keeping my voice steady, "this child is not your shield. I refuse to be manipulated. Your choices have consequences, and your actions matter." She looked at me, startled, as if I had shattered the illusion she had built. Her smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. That small crack was enough to fuel my resolve. The pregnancy, which she had assumed gave her invincibility, could instead become a mirror reflecting the consequences of her actions. Over the next few days, I maintained a calm yet firm presence. I refused to respond to her provocations, subtle insults, or attempts to guilt me into submission. Each time she tried to leverage the pregnancy as a weapon, I met it with composure and clarity. My silence became a statement, my confidence a barrier, and my strategic patience a way to reclaim power without confrontation. Vanessa, of course, noticed the shift. The usual tactics she relied on, flattery, guilt, and subtle intimidation, no longer worked. Each time she attempted to assert control through her pregnancy, I responded with calm neutrality, refusing to engage in arguments or emotional manipulation. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing that her assumed power was nothing more than a facade, fragile and dependent entirely on my reaction. I started making small, deliberate changes to our daily routine. I spent more time focusing on myself, my work, my health, and my personal growth. Every gym session, every late-night project, every thoughtful conversation with friends reminded me of my independence and strength. I was no longer trapped in the emotional labyrinth she had created. Instead, I was reclaiming my life piece by piece. One evening, Vanessa attempted her most audacious move yet. She cornered me in the living room, her tone sharp and confident, declaring, "You can't leave now. I'm pregnant, and that changes everything." I looked at her steadily, without flinching. "No," I replied calmly. "It changes nothing. I will not be manipulated, and I will not compromise my dignity or the truth of what's happening between us." Her eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw doubt creep into her expression. The power she believed she wielded had evaporated in the face of unwavering composure. From that moment, every interaction became a test of patience, strategy, and restraint. She tried to provoke, to guilt, to assert authority, but I met each attempt with the same measured calm. I didn't need to shout, threaten, or retaliate. The pregnancy she believed gave her leverage had become a stage for accountability. Slowly, the tension shifted. Her confidence waned, replaced by unease. Every word I spoke, every decision I made, reinforced that the power dynamics had changed. Over the next weeks, I meticulously documented our conversations and her actions, preparing for the eventual confrontation that would hold her accountable. I did not rush. I did not act impulsively. Instead, I allowed the weight of her choices to accumulate, making the eventual consequences inevitable. Vanessa's power was illusory, My patience and strategy turned it into her biggest regret. By asserting my boundaries and refusing to allow her pregnancy to dictate the terms of our relationship, I began to reclaim control. The strength I displayed was not aggressive, nor was it vengeful. It was quiet, deliberate, and undeniable. And in that quiet control, the foundation for her eventual reckoning was laid. A reckoning that would make her reflect on the choices she had made and the betrayal she had committed. The turning point came on a rainy evening. Vanessa had returned from an appointment, visibly agitated and expecting me to react to her moods, her accusations, or her attempts to guilt me. But I remained seated at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee in hand, calm and collected. Her usual sharp remarks fell flat, echoing against the barrier I had built. She tried to assert control with a cutting tone. "You don't understand. You have to accept this, the baby." I held up a hand gently. "No, I understand perfectly. But this doesn't give you control over me, over us, or over the truth." For the first time she seemed truly unsettled. The confident smirk that had been her armor slipped, replaced by a mixture of frustration and realization. She was beginning to grasp that her assumed power was nothing without the compliance of the person she sought to manipulate. My composure was not a weakness, it was a mirror, reflecting her choices and her consequences. Over the following days, Vanessa's behavior changed subtly but unmistakably. She no longer tried to provoke me with sarcasm or implied threats. Instead, she approached interactions with a tentative respect, as if testing the boundaries she had ignored for too long. I remained consistent, unwavering, and deliberate. Each time she attempted to leverage the pregnancy as a tool, I met it with calm clarity, reinforcing that manipulation would no longer succeed. Eventually, the inevitable conversation occurred. Vanessa, humbled and cautious, sat down to discuss the state of our relationship. She admitted her mistakes, her infidelity, and the ways she had underestimated me. I listened patiently, allowing her to speak without interruption. My silence was not passive. It was a demonstration of strength and control. By choosing when to speak, how to respond, and how to assert boundaries, I turned her moment of assumed power into her moment of reckoning. Looking back, I realized that her pregnancy, which she believed gave her ultimate leverage, had instead highlighted the fragility of her choices. The betrayal and manipulation she tried to wield as power became a path for accountability. My patience, composure, and strategic restraint ensured that her reckoning would be profound and undeniable. In the end, Vanessa learned a hard truth. Actions have consequences, and no perceived advantage can override integrity, boundaries, and self-respect. She had assumed her pregnancy gave her authority, but I had shown her that real power lies in measured strength, clarity, and unwavering dignity. The pregnancy, once a tool she believed she controlled, became her biggest regret. And through it all, I emerged not only unbroken, but stronger, wiser, and entirely in control of my life, my choices, and my future.